Kemi Olunloyo, retired Nigerian journalist, Dr. Kemi, November 2nd, 2025. In this particular video, I want every single one of you to tag President Trump and Team Trump, wherever you're watching this. Because what we're going through right now in Nigeria with this CPC designation, President Trump's advisors will have to explain more of it to him. You can see that the entire administration, the entire political party, everybody in the US government and past governments are all tweeting about this. And they're thanking President Trump in bringing sanity and peace to Nigeria. So, for President Trump to properly know what's going on in Nigeria, they need journalists like me, okay, to speak out more. I'm not a practicing journalist anymore. The ones practicing cannot talk. Many of them will get fired, killed, go in exile, and all that nonsense. But I do want to say something to the president. Mr. President, please do not meet with President Tinubu yet. I'm asking President Trump not to meet with President Tinubu of Nigeria yet. The reason is because President Tinubu has to agree that there is a genocide going on in Nigeria. This is not starting from his administration. This has started from 2002. And what we have now is an administration who is still not fighting this insurgency. Muslims are killed in the north if they dare support any Christianity efforts or any modern education efforts. Christians are killed in the north. Now Christians are killed in the south. All these things is really about Nigerians getting killed, and no one is doing anything. But there's a targeted aspect. And that targeted aspect is churches and Christianity. We have a Muslim presidency, and we have a Muslim country. Okay? My grandmother was one of the most prominent Muslim women in Ibadan, Nigeria, the largest city in West Africa. And I can tell you, I'm not into the religion bullshit. What I'm into right here is the faces of the dead. They must always be in the news and never be forgotten. Nigeria has no collage, no emergency rescue things. In America, if 50 people were slaughtered, let me give you an example of a story I did. Our massacre in Ondo State, Nigeria. That was my story. 32 people were massacred in a church on a Sunday just like today. Gunmen went in there all disguised and they were firing from outside on either side of the church. Killed 36 people and the government put out 12 killed. You know, let me say something to you. I have people who tell me things, and these are eyewitnesses. Okay, these are people inside. I was an investigative journalist for 31 years, and 12 years out of that was in Nigeria. And let me say something to you. I left church one Sunday, the Sunday after the massacre, and outside my own church, I won't mention the church I will, outside my own church, there was a military general and a police chief. They told me, "Hi, Kemi, how are you? You're doing such a good job with journalism. We're traveling now, we're on our way." They left church straight on the highway. They were going to Owo. They were the army general and the police chief that were investigating Owo, or, helping with the investigation. We don't have an FBI, okay? Other police chiefs spring out to help. And I said something to him. We're off the record, okay? Police chief, please tell me, how many people really died in there? He said about 35, 36. I said, then I was right. Yeah, you're right. You want to make a quota each time? Okay, the evil President Buhari is not here anymore. President Buhari knew a lot of these things going on, knew the sponsors, knew everybody. Let's change this country once and for all. He knew everything going on, but did he fight it? And then somebody drew a narrative about sponsorship of Boko Haram. They threw that one at Obama. Okay, I didn't get into that story. I just retired and I have my own problems. You all know what happened when my father died and what I went through. Now, back to President Trump. Until President Tinubu decides to admit that there is Christian genocide in Nigeria, please do not meet President Tinubu at the White House. No, no, no. If you like Any of you out there abuse me in the comments. I don't care. President Trump, tag him. He must not meet President Tinubu until President Tinubu accepts and agrees that there is a genocide going on against Christians. I have a lot of Muslim friends. Like I said, my grandmother's Muslim. I have nothing against the Islam. My grandmother taught me at 10 years old. I lived with her for 4 years. She taught me about Islam. Islam is a religion of peace. It's not a religion of killing. But there's some people who are jihadists. They have names: Al-Qaeda, ISWAP West Africa, Boko Haram, names. What is the Tinubu government doing? President Tinubu's government is announcing a new terrorist group to us every 2 weeks. Why is the media so controlled in Nigeria? The Nigerian media is controlled because the politicians and businessmen own the media houses. So they're so controlled that these journalists come out, oh, a new terrorist group, and Saru, a new terrorist. We don't want to know the new terrorist group. We want them eliminated, unalived, and taken away. President Trump, you need to send a B-2 stealth into Maiduguri, Sambisa forest, an entire body of forest, a geographical location that used to be a tourist attraction for people who went to northeast Nigeria, Maiduguri, Nigeria. Sambisa forest is where these terrorists live, harbor. They kidnap schoolgirls. Boko Haram kidnap the Chibok girls, the Dapchi girls. They hide them there. They marry them off. They kill people. If Trump can take a B-2 stealth out to Iran and take out the tyrants over there, the prison walls open, even professors, Iranian professors, intelligent people who have been locked up since the 80s or 70s. Some died in there. Many of them escaped when the walls of the prison, like it's in the book of Acts. The book of Acts talked about how Paul and Silas broke out of the prison when the doors opened. We need to do that. I'm a Nigerian. We need to do that. We need to send B-2 stealth bombers up there and open that forest up, open their activities up. President Trump, we have lost service chiefs. And they've covered it up. I am that journalist that tweeted that said that the service chiefs were killed. There was one service chief, President Trump. He was in the forest every day. He was never in his office. General Lagbaja was never in his office. He was in the forest trying to combat this terrorist. Something he saw in that forest. The next week he was eliminated. Poisoned or something. And then they said he died of prostate cancer. We know what's going on. The families of these people can't talk. I'm a journalist that can talk, but I'm not even in Nigeria now. I fled. But I will talk because it's my country and somebody has to help us take back this country. President Trump, General Atahiru, was flying on a sunny day and a surface-to-air missile took down the plane. And I tweeted it with my chest to President Buhari that no stones must be left unturned and that this man was killed by the terrorists and the bandits on the ground. No one took me serious because Nigeria itself doesn't take me. They call me a mad woman over there, President Trump. You know you're mad when you're telling the truth. This is how even the people are at the cause of this. Kaduna, Nigeria, President Trump. The bushes, the forest, everything. They took down a girl they could not kill in the air, this terrorist. Okay, a young fighter pilot. Tolulokpe Arotile. President Trump, Google it. Arotile, Hegseth. You're there. Google it. Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of War, United States Chief of Defense. It's now Secretary of War. Hegseth, Google Arotile. Arotile. Tolu, Tolu. This young girl was a fighter pilot. She was bombing terrorists. And they took her out. The sponsors are politicians. The way they took her out, they made sure she was on the ground. She was just going to her apartment and two men backed up their car into her, killing her. In Nigeria, they kill you and make it look like an accident. The journalist that was killed last month, a female journalist, Somto Maduagu, was working on a story about terrorists. Please do this for her.